Good morning, Virginia. I'm Sam Cox.
I'm Von Rumps.
And I'm Allie Bacon. Today we'll be talking about World War I and how it affected women, African Americans, and Mexicans.
To start with, the Great Migration is an event where African Americans started migrating from the south to the north because they saw economic opportunity. They also saw the war as an opportunity to fight for democracy in the U.S. Some African Americans were hesitant to join the fight because they saw it as a hypocritical action of the U.S. Others saw it as a chance to show their patriotism for the country. 1 million African Americans responded to their draft calls and 370,000 enlisted to join the fight. Even though they wanted to fight, African Americans were still discriminated. But when the war was brought into the United States' hands, they served their purpose. They traveled across the Atlantic Ocean and served as service units and even fought in combat. The most known African American divisions were the 92nd and the 93rd, and the most popular would be the 93rd or the Harlem Hellfighters. They are known because of their strong band and their outstanding combat. Once they returned to the U.S. from fighting, they thought they would have their place in society, but they were wrong. Race riots broke out and it became known as the Red Summer. After that, black nationalism was the most dominant mass movement of the post-war era, and African Americans pushed for their place in society, but it was still not present in this time. Over to you, Vaughn.
Thank you, Sam. Mexicans in World War I had a largely unrecognized role during the war, but was nonetheless important. Due to the United States being unprepared for the war, a majority of men were required to enlist, including Mexicans. During the war, Mexicans were looked at as second-class soldiers by white troops. Due to this, many Mexicans did not want to fight, but still did. Since many minorities wanted to leave, the government developed the Camp Gordon Plan, which separated and supported soldiers based on language who had officers who spoke the same language, which was in this case Spanish. Mexicans were trained at Camp Cody, New Mexico. Mexicans rarely saw life in the trenches, yet a few did receive national honors. For instance, Marcelino Serna captured 24 German soldiers, yet did not receive the Medal of Honor due to his ethnicity and lack of speaking English properly. Although the treatment of Mexicans within the military was not great, this was the first true time in American history that the government as well as white citizens fully embraced and included Mexicans in national society. Discrimination towards Mexicans remained. However, involvement in World War I was a prime example of minority groups' struggle for equal rights in the 20th century. On to you, Allie.
Thank you for that information, Vaughn. To look at this topic from a different viewpoint, let's look at how women affected World War I. In the early 1900s, women were stay-at-home moms and worked in the household. However, when World War I broke out, much of the U.S. labor force went away to fight in the war. The only people left to take on these jobs were women. They started working in factories, industries, and transportation. By 1918, 3 million women were employed in jobs previously held by men. This shift affected the U.S. workforce for decades to come, and because women were able to break out of their traditional housewife roles. Unfortunately, most women lost their jobs when the men returned from World War I. Employers gave the jobs back to the men since they were the main breadwinners.
Thank you, Allie. Now, as we've concluded our presentation, we have a PowerPoint which Mr. Janey will pull up right now. I would also like to give a special shout out to our filmer, Kyle Johnson. Kyle, come over.
There
he is.
Thank you, Vaughn.
All right, there we go. Cool. This was take 500.
474.